Today is a sector that impacts Sri Lanka quite heavily. Tourism is Sri Lanka's second largest foreign exchange earner after remittances. So Nilan, what is your perspective on how well we are doing today?
Thank you, Sean, for having me here
Thank
today. It's a great pleasure and a privilege. If you talk about today at this moment, we are falling into the off season. People who are engaged in tourism know very well that from end April, May, June is the off season and where we experience the least amount of tourist arrivals into Sri Lanka. And then it will start again in July, August with most of the family traveling and holiday season for the school children in Europe. And then it goes on, and November is the beginning of the next winter. We are hopeful that we are going to have a very good winter from December onward till next March and April. The Sri Lanka tourism had a strategy to achieve at least 2 million arrivals during this year. So far, I think the numbers are pretty good.
So far, it is reaching that level.
Reaching that level, and especially 2023 has been a good year, especially the winter season. I see it as the proper tourist arrival season to Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka basically has, in the 2019 levels, when I looked at the statistics, we earned about $3.6 billion from that year.
Yeah.
We had about 1.9 million tourists that are coming. Today we are reaching on the route to reaching that level. However, my main concern is not about actually the amount of tourists that are coming. It's about the amount of money that these tourists are finding, spending and bringing into the economy. What is your perspective on Sri Lanka's strategy today on trying to earn more money from the influx of tourists?
In general, all the theories are right and wrong as well. Yeah. It's a 50-50 thing, because you can imagine like most of the people who are in the industry, like decision-making guys are talking about this high-end tourism, including the president of Sri Lanka. But to be in the high-end, are we ready? That's one question. We don't even have 1,000 rooms for this highest end of tourists. So we recently opened a hotel in Colombo, which is high-end. And there is another one, proper 5-star, which goes up to 6 stars. And then in Yala area, you get some fantastic boutique hotels and in tree trails as well, and even in Cultural Triangle now. But we should have high-end people who can spend. Now we have to think of on what are they going to spend. It is not like increasing prices, like you have increased the visa price and then the Cultural Triangle tickets. And by increasing those things, if you are willing to increase the high-end tourism, I don't think that strategy is going to work.
When you spoke about the visa prices, it gradually did increase. It went from $35 to $50 and now to $100. Funny enough, today, the day that we are doing the podcast, on the front page of Sri Lanka's tabloids, it speaks about an incident where someone had an outrage in the airport. Number one, because this visa on arrival was being issued by not a Sri Lankan, by an Indian company. On the other hand, people are also worried about the fact that having such high on-arrival visas will deter people from coming. Deter hoteliers and other people in the tourism sector from keeping up this momentum and being able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. What are your takes on it?
Most of the industry guys, including me, we were very happy to enjoy a very good season, even the SLTDA, even the tourism minister. But sudden increase in visa fees up to about $100.
Were they spoken to regarding this increase in fees? Were the stakeholders, were they consulted?
None of us have been consulted, including the tourism minister. He doesn't know what was taking place. Especially in Europe, they have a budget. When they travel, increasing visa fee by $50 becomes $100. So as I told you very clearly, July, August is a season where the people travel with the families. So generally, when you travel with the families, you have kids. So if it's a family of about 5 people, they have to spend $500 only on visa fees. In this case, if we have a very good demand and if we are at the height of the tourism, it's okay to charge a high fare in visa. But here there is something very fishy. because went on, as you said, 35 to 50, 50 to 75, and there are other charges of $25 by this company. So it is like fishing in the troubled water. Somebody is trying to earn a buck. Why do the government have to give someone else who is not known to and which is not a Sri Lankan company $25 of government revenue? It is basically 25% of the government revenue is going to a company.
From the visa on arrival?
Yeah. So who is behind this? What's the nonsense that is doing? Imagine, so if I were to let's say 2 million for this thing, visa companies are earning about $50 million. What's the reason? Because we had the best system in the world. Everybody appreciated, and when they wanted to, other countries in South Asia and even Europe, they have spoken to us and said, you have the best system in the world for 80 years. So why do we have to go? And because we have a very learned and very experienced immigration staff at the Bandaranaike International Airport. So having all the amenities with us, why are we paying so much of money for someone else? That I can't understand.
Also, what I also couldn't understand is at that time when we were trying to attract these Ukrainians and these Russians to come to Sri Lanka, we never had the ability to control also the activities in this country. I think about a month or two ago, there was a big hot topic about these people coming here and then conducting businesses as well without the government oversight.
Yes. So this has been actually happening down south, deep down south. I also have personal experiences because especially when these Russians comes and they come to our hotels, for 7 nights. But for about 3-4 nights, they disappear. We don't know where have they gone. And they don't tell us so. We don't have the right to ask. They keep their bags and they go. And there is a van coming and picking up the guests and going. I think they have already paid whatever the amount that has to be paid in their country, in their money. And they come here and I don't know what the country is getting.
That's the whole point.
That's the whole point. Tourism? Yeah. This has been discussed, lengthily in our associations and with Sri Lanka tourism and things like that. And then, with the issuance of these visas of 90 days, 120 days and multiple entries, they take the advantage of that and then they do businesses. I don't want to name the countries because that's not very diplomatic. But there are certain countries, even in Europe, they have numbers traveling into those countries. But whenever they buy things, they don't allow them to ship it or take them in the flight. They will say, you don't worry, we will deliver. But sometimes the products are coming from their own country. These are the things that are happening worldwide. So Sri Lanka is part of it.
Speaking of worldwide, is the current crisis in the Middle East, all these things happening, is it having an impact on our tourism sector? So what is the actual analysis?
What I say is always tourism worldwide is considered as the most sensitive business. Because anything happen, cough, cold, war, safety and security, everything counts. The up and downs of tourism. The best example was this COVID-19, what took place and tourism went down to zero. Last year, 22, WTO had some predictions about 23, which they have achieved about 36% growth internationally. The countries that have progressed well has been Middle East, Europe, certain parts of Europe and African countries because it's mainly due to safety and security. When you say safety and security, it has a broader view than before. Like it's not only the physical safety and security, let's say it's not only the political unrest, the terrorism attacks, whatever, but now people are thinking about the health also. So then with all these aspects, Middle East gained first and then it came to South Asia and Sri Lanka and South Asia is doing well and they have achieved all targets. According to WTA, March, there had been about 175 million tourists travel internationally worldwide, which has brought about 1.4 trillion worth of US dollars in money for the world GDP. And tourism enjoys the biggest and largest supply chain in the world. You can't imagine.
Everything is connected.
Everything is connected. So tourism make people live, including Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka. It's a very inclusive business. Now let's say you said we talk about high-end clients, but when the low-end clients come also, they want some certain type of accommodation. And they go to the village villages, they go to the towns, they go to the small places, and the money that is coming into the country going from the grassroots level to our top. Generally, whenever you talk about a business, import, export or whatever, blue chip companies, that money comes from top to the bottom. But tourism, the beauty of tourism is it is going from bottom to top.
Yeah.
So that's one fantastic thing in tourism.
And everyone is affected.
Everyone is benefited rather, right? So that is the beauty of this business. So when you decision makers has to be aware of what is taking place. They have to have top sense of what is going on, not only in the country, internationally as well. Question is a pointed one about this Middle East unrest. So up to now, there has not been a big issue except for those countries who are involved in the war. Other part of the world, tourism is normal. But if it is increases, again, the gravity of it, there is a problem with Europe. Because in European countries, especially European community, has a bit unrest because of things going their back door, like Ukrainian thing. They are worried about the future and they don't want to spend every money that they have for leisure or anything, and they try to save a bit also because there is ambiguity in this area.
I remember when energy prices were high, people had smaller pockets.
Yes, of course.
That also had an impact on us in those few years.
Definitely, yes.
And also, Nilan, just carrying on, now we spoke about how much it affects Sri Lanka and Sri Lanka, how much they can seek to benefit from it, how other countries in the world are doing better at certain times. But I want to know is, how can Sri Lanka do better from today? When I look at Thailand, I see a country that welcomes upwards of 40 million tourists a year. Fine, we might not have the land extent that they do have, but they have done something right. Whether it's having good bilateral relations with other countries, presenting themselves as a safe location for these European travelers. At the same time, I know Sri Lanka is just scratching the surface of what it can do more. We are not targeting the blue economy that way. That has to do with yachting, it has to do with all sorts of other things. We are not bringing in the boats here, we are not creating that sort of tourism. There is another thing called medical tourism, whereby we can promote us as a tourist hotspot on one hand for tourism, but on the other hand for medical treatments, which will directly impact a totally other sector, which also employs quite a number of people. According to you, what are the most short-term steps that the government or the industry as a whole should take to ensure that we continue to progress steadily and continue to capture more and more income as we go along?
You are talking about part of the international thinking of tourism, which is vulnerable and that we should think about it, especially when you talk about the blue economy. I did a small research on blue economy in the South Asian countries. I think the smaller countries like Bangladesh and Maldives are much better, and they are doing far better things than what we do. When, as you very well said about the yachting and using of the sea, so blue economy is all about what we are giving to the sea and what we are taking from the sea. I think we are giving all the rubbish of the country to the sea. If you look at the river mouths, it's full of dirt. So we have to pay attention into these things, right? And to then
it's not an attractive sight to look at.
Yeah, and when you do that, then the world is eyeing at you. You don't need any other marketing strategies or something like that. There are NGOs, there are international organizations who will support for those things, and we have to go in hand with them and get the benefit out of this, and ultimately the tourism will benefit. And also tourism is an industry where you can see endless opportunity to develop, like medical tourism, sports tourism, educational tourism, and a lot of other things. Our people are petty-minded. They don't see the big picture. Big picture should be to earn dollars. Whatever the money that you are earning from tourism is tax-free, interest-free. Rather than trying to get maximum dollar input into the country, they are trying to earn a buck of what we are getting and fishing in the troubled water. Look at this visa thing. Just $25 is going to someone's pocket.
And it's going to also impact us as a whole.
As a whole, and you talk about Thailand. Thailand is visa free for 30 days. Maldives is visa free for 30 days. Similarly, Singapore, Malaysia, very small charges. And look at Vietnam. Vietnam is visa free and it's charging something like $25 if they're charging. So they flourish. The tourism is booming in those countries. And what we are doing is, We have a kind of, it's in our blood, I think. When somebody has money, you want to take it somehow. It's like pickpocketing. Rather than welcome a person and make him spend money and earning something in terms of tax or something, in terms of foreign currency, what they try to do is to take it out from him. The best example we had about this Kottu fellow who sold the Kottu for $1,900.
I saw that too.
Everybody talked about it.
Yeah.
What his government is doing is not much better than this Kottu fellow is doing. You just like,
It's about taking sides. No?
Yeah, this is not the way. When you have to make people come into the country and give them the facilities, welcome them in a proper way, and improve the arrivals and earn money, what they are trying to do is, we are getting 22 million tourists. 25 into that is $50 million, good money. We should think about that, thinking about the future of tourism. That is what these people are doing.
All the other auxiliary industries that we can target.
Target, yes.
All the other recreational activities we can create, such as yachting.
Yes, because when you hear the conference of the tourism minister, he is not aware of anything of this. He is willing to develop tourism in Sri Lanka, and he has, I think, requested to give visa facilities for about 60 odd countries. Because what we need is the more Europeans to come into this country, because their vacation pattern is holiday pattern is different. When they come for 14 nights, sometimes 24 days, 21 days. So when they come, they stay long, and then it's good for hotel occupants, it's good for the economy, good for the microeconomy and everything. So we should know where we are heading.
And Nilan, on that note, thank you.
Thank you again for having me here.